Good evening. We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. At this time, our clerk will read the roll.
Boys.
Here.
Connor. Davis. DeShazier.
Present.
Fusco. Garrett.
Present.
Hannah.
Here.
Hardy.
Here.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present.
For those who voluntarily wish to do so, would you please stand at this time as we are led in prayer by Bishop Samuel Hampton, who is the pastor of First Apostolic Faith Church. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if Councilman Fusco would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you and praise you for the opportunity to gather together with our city council and our public officials. Father, we lift them up because this is the city that we love. You have planted us in this city to grow and to flourish. So, Father, I lift up each and every councilman. I lift up each and every councilwoman. I lift up our mayor. I lift up each and every public official, Father, for we cannot do this without you. So I pray that you would give them godly counsel, godly wisdom. Help us as a city work together that you might be glorified in it, that all that is done, as your word would declare, that when the righteous are empowered, the people rejoice. And we want to be a city that rejoices. So, Father, we pray that you give them righteous actions from a righteous heart. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. At this time, we're going to move to our public comment period. We do have one individual who has signed up to participate. I do see that he is here with us, William Reynolds. If you will approach the podium, and we'll have our clerk to swear you in.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Wow, I'm the only one tonight. So a couple things. I haven't been here in person for a little while. I do watch online every time I'm not here for the most part. And there's a few things that's been bothering me for a while. You guys actually kind of have it lucky. I was speaking to one of the council people before the meeting tonight. You guys have it lucky. In general, the Akron residents respect the rules. I hear you at times comparing yourselves to Cleveland, and Cleveland did this, or reading about it in the paper or elsewhere. In Cleveland, we constantly see, rowdy, disrespectful people. So I just air that because one of the reasons that I haven't been here, I can only speak once a month. Kind of ridiculous. And not even once a month. A month is 30 days. It's once every 5 weeks because, it's 28 days or 35 days, kind of crazy. I do know there's a lot of people who have a voice who want to share it. So the other thing I wanted to speak about is the ABT building. I am part of a group of people who care very heavily about ABT's building and property. We do understand the issues with the building, and the terrible desecration that people outside of this room, or probably not even watching, did to the building. There are historic things like the cornerstone that doesn't sound like it's being saved. There's also a time capsule apparently behind the cornerstone that no one's trying to save, no one's checking for. And I just, with the understanding of why the building needs to come down, I would almost expect for the city to respect the history and try to preserve stuff like the cornerstone, which wouldn't be affected by asbestos or mold. It wouldn't be anywhere near it. You know, I understand some of the other stuff, but thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Reynolds, for sharing. That concludes our public comment period for this evening. I know we do have some special guests who are here with us. I'm not so sure who's going to make the introduction. Councilman DeSager, is that you? Now, you're so used to, in your other position, having to stand. You could have done that right from your seat, but that's okay. I know, it's okay.
I'm sorry. Hello, everybody. We do have some special guests here tonight, and I wanted to bring, first of all, our partner, who's been a partner with our administration and with this city for a number of years. She's the honorary consul general to Lithuania, and her name is Ingrida Bubelis. And Ms. Bubelis, would you come forward and introduce our guests? We have some people who have won a competition, and they got an opportunity to come to Akron. Ms. Bubelis.
Well, good evening to all. It's really a pleasure for me to introduce you special guests that are here in the chamber all the way from Taiwan. And these two gentlemen participated in Lithuania at an international life science Baltics conference, and they won first prize. And the first prize was the opportunity to come to Akron to train and to learn. And thank you, Akron, for opening your doors, opening doors for new initiatives and new business. And the two gentlemen are in the back. We'll ask them to stand up. And that's Alan Ho and Bob Sean.
And if you'd like to, would you like to come forward? Would you like to? We would love to hear from you.
The other gentleman that's our partner is Mr. Greg Kramer, who's Vice President of the Greater Akron Chamber. So, Greg, would you stand and let people see you?
So, hello everybody. I'm Bob Zhang. I'm from Robotics. So our company is doing the robotics exoskeleton for the rehabilitation. So we are very glad to have this opportunity to come Akron to have so many different training to see and to think. Also, we are looking forward in the future we can have more different chances in this city because this is really adorable city. We love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and welcome to Akron. Do you have something, Councilwoman Amobian?
Now, just curious, how long will they be here?
Councilwoman Amobian's question was how long will they be here? This is their first time in the United States, and they arrived on Thursday. They got a chance to overnight in Chicago, and then they found out that the United States was big because they drove all the way from Chicago to here. Yeah. So they'll be here till Saturday after they watch the winning team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, over the Philadelphia 76ers on Friday night.
Very good. Before we move back into our regular scheduled agenda, we do have another special recognition that we want to do, and I'm going to ask our clerk to read that in.
I'd like to first, if I could, Madam President, make a
Yes.
motion to suspend council rules regarding legislation being considered at a committee meeting.
So we do have a motion on the floor. Can we please have a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This is item 0, offered by Councilman Fusco. Resolution congratulating Jim Aitken on the occasion of his retirement and thanking him for his service to the city of Akron and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Thank you. No, we have a retirement soon here in our city. I have a few comments, most of which is probably going to be joking, as Mr. Aitken can certainly appreciate. Jim, just to let you know, as one who, this is one of those jokes, one who served in the service director's office, whenever I was there, my golf game was much, much better than it is today. So just to let you know, by leaving there, your game may suffer just a bit. Just a joke, okay? Also, Jim started with the city in 1986, and I think that's many here on council wasn't even born yet. He's an older gentleman, as we all know, but he's done such a great job for our city. Another bad joke, sorry. Tough room. But in all sincerity, though, Jim has been a leader in our city in terms of a manager in our city that's gotten the respect from everybody, literally, that he works with. He's a people person, got along well with everyone, and still got the job done. Somebody that you can call, somebody you can rely on, and it's going to be tough to replace Mr. Aitken, and I wish the mayor all the luck in the world in terms of doing that. It's going to be tough act to follow. But Jim, I just want to say thank you to all you've done for the city of Akron, for all the residents. People call. Stuff gets done now, as many of us can attest whenever we call Mr. Aitken. So thank you again for all of your service to the city. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Any other council members? Councilman Hardy?
Thank you. This is one of those times where we declare an emergency, and it's correct because it is an emergency. Jim Aitken is leaving the city. I echo Councilman Fusco's comments, and would just add that I have the privilege of being a next-door neighbor to Mr. Aitken and to Maggie. So I want to thank, first of all, Maggie, thank you for allowing him to answer calls in the middle of the night for the last 20, 30 years. That takes a family to support that kind of servant leadership. And I also just want to go on record as saying, we're losing an incredible human being, as evidenced by Zach, Erica. When your kids are that stellar and they want to serve the community as well, that also speaks volumes about you and you both. So like I said, I will still get to see Jimmy every single day as we blow leaves out of our backyard. But that's right. But I won't get to see him at the city, which will be a shame. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. Councilman Lombardo?
Thank you, Madam President. Jim, just I want to thank you for everything you've done for me. Just whether you're in this position as Assistant Service Director or another position you were at, you were always available to take calls. And like Councilman Fusco said, you did get the job done and make us all look good. He told me at one time it's a great job that he had because he only had to work half the day. But little did I know that was midnight to noon, right? So, but anyhow, thank you for your work, and good luck with you.
Councilman McKittrick?
Thanks, Madam President. At times when I would call Jim, be very stressful, something going on that really needed to be taken care of, I would run into him places, and always, he was calm. He always smiled. I don't know how he always smiled, but he did. And I just will be forever grateful for everything you've done for the city and the help that you've given me over my time in council. Thanks so much and enjoy.
Councilman Kamer?
Thank you, Madam President. I think I wrote down a couple nice things. Let's see. Now, Jim, congratulations, and thank you for everything you've done. I wanted to hear from some other folks first because I believe that a few years ago, Chris was like, I'm sick and tired of Donnie calling me, so he's going to start calling Jim from now on with all his concerns. No, Jim, you've done a great job. I think the residents of Ward 7 were very happy with your response and some of the issues you helped out with, and I can't thank you enough. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I've called you a few times where you were on vacation, and you called back, so that means a lot. So there are going to be some big shoes to fill here. So whoever that next person is, that they have a very big job ahead of them. So congratulations to you and your wife.
Councilman DeShazier?
Well, as somebody who worked with Jim, I'll tell you that no matter what the situation was, when Jim came around, the temperature just dropped like about 20 degrees. And so I'm going to miss you down here, Jim, but this is one time only. This year, you can blow all your leaves in Councilman Hardy's yard. Congratulations to you and to Maggie.
Any other comments? Mayor Malik?
Thank you. So when we were thinking about the transition, Jim said, I'm going to help you stay through snow and ice season. So I guess that was a practical joke that you were playing on all of us. But, you know, I would call you when I first met you, when you first took this job, I would call you. I would have 10 or 15 things on a list. And after each one, he would say, what else you got? What else you got? What else you got? And that is the can-do attitude that is exemplified by the entire service department and really by our entire city staff. And that's because of the leadership and the example of people like you. So we are really grateful to you and Maggie, and we will miss you. But if you staying means that snow and ice season is just permanently delayed, we're happy to do that too. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, Chris Luttle?
Thank you. Maggie, thank you. Thank you for allowing Jim. I know he wanted to retire a couple years ago, and we asked him to come down. And it's just been awesome. I mean, I've been here 20 years, but Jim and I, people might know this, we grew up together. We were altar boys together at St. Anthony's, so we've known each other our whole lives. We saw our families grow together. But when he came downtown, I mean, it probably hasn't changed much. The phone would ring at 6:37 in the morning. It would be guys from the sewer department. He took care of that department like nobody could. I mean, I seen him taking care of people in their worst days. And I'm talking about city employees. He made their life so much better. And that's what he did for our citizens. It was customer service, day after day after day. So, you know, this morning, someone asked about a house they're looking at on Sand Run. I said, Jim, look up at this house on Sand Run Road. He goes, the sewer's in the backyard. I mean, just like that. I mean, you know, there's roots back there. We'll make sure the sewer's okay. We'll check out the water line. It's just one thing after another. So when you have somebody working with you behind you, it makes your job so much easier. Those shoes are going to be hard to fill, but we will bring somebody new on. And believe me, he said he's one phone call away. He will always answer his phone. So that doesn't go for you council members. That goes for me. But Jim, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you. And so, Mr. Aitken, I do too have to say something. I want to thank you for all that you do. I'm just remembering just the last phone call that I made to you, and it was not an easy situation. And again, you know, we have such great staff workers who go over and beyond. And that's what you did in that situation, in that case. And so I will forever be grateful for all that you've done. We're going to miss you, but we wish you the best. And at this time, we love for you to, we love to hear from you. See, your wife is prepared. She's got your back.
Thank you, everybody. It's been a great ride. Great people on the day one to Friday. Beautiful.
Thank you. Okay. So at this time, is it possible for us to have a motion for mayor and council as a whole?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This resolution passes 13-0.
Right. We're now going to continue with the rest of our regular scheduled agenda. Before you is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
The consent agenda passes 13-0.
We'll now move to old business, budget. Councilman Lombardo.
Resolution. The report of the committee for the first resolution. Were you going to read that in? Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Item number 1 is a resolution adopting an annual operating budget for the fiscal year 2024 and declaring an emergency.
The report of the committee is favorable, and we're asking for passage.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. Councilman Lombardo, any further comments?
No further comment.
Going to read in item number 2. There's no further comments. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This resolution passes 13-0. Item number 2 has a substitute offered as an amendment. That substitute is offered by Mayor Malik, President Somerville, Councilman Fusco, Councilman McKittrick, and Councilman Lombardo. It's an ordinance to make the annual appropriation for the current expenses, other expenditures, and the capital outlays of the City of Akron for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo,
The report of the committee is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you. So the operating budget, there's been some, as our clerk said, there's been some amendments, and there's been some great dialogue between council members and the administration, along with the public engagement, and they've come up with some great items added to support the community, most notably some monies for animal control, housing compliance, and our nuisance compliance, monies for our police with the vice unit. So with that, there's also been some concessions on the administration part with some positions just put on pause for right now. So with that, again, the report was favorable, and we're just asking for passage tonight.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Lombardo. I do just have a comment. I want to take an opportunity to thank council leadership for all of their hard work over the past week to really prepare the budget amendment that is before you. It was very important for us to work on a budget amendment to ensure that we would have a budget that could be passed by this council. And I want to thank every single council person for sharing your concerns and some of your priorities that you wanted to see in the budget. So we tried to be very intentional in adding those to the amendment that is before you. I want to thank the mayor for being willing to have a conversation and being willing to understand where we were coming from in terms of wanting to have a budget that does have equity, that does have resources that's allocated to all departments, particularly departments in which our Akron residents heavily rely on every single day, right? Where they can get the best service when they call 311 or whatever type of service or situations or problems that they're having in the city. So I do want to thank you. I also want to make it very clear, too, we have come to what seems to be a compromise, and I thank you for that. But I still have some concerns. I have concerns about sustainability, right, and how we will sustain all of these positions. And I think over time, we will have to look at that. We will have to evaluate that. I also still have some concerns, and I'm going to continue to advocate, just as we invest in individuals working at the top, I want to make sure that we invest in those who are boots on the ground, doing the work for us every single day. So you're going to continue to hear me, listen, I heard that we're going to be finding money, to maybe fill some positions. I want us to intentionally find some money so that we can change every seasonal part-time position in recreation to full-time, so that every city worker has an opportunity to truly be able to support their family and be able to have access to health care. That's where we got to get to, and I want us to work as a team to make sure that that happens. So thank you. Councilman Fusco?
Yes, thank you, President Somerville. I would just like to again, echo what you had mentioned, President Somerville, in terms of thanking all of my colleagues here on council. You've all challenged us as leadership. You've challenged the administration to do better. And I also want to comment and point out that our freshman, our new budget and finance chair, Mr. Lombardo, fine job with that. It's a lot of work in a condensed time frame. Also want to thank Mr. Fricker. I don't know if he is here. Okay, always here. Mr. Fricker and Mr. Wheeler for all their hard work. Appreciate that. Excuse me. In this budget amendment, our thoughts are to provide funding to those that do the work, and appreciate having more folks who think about the workflow and process improvements. Understand that's part of the mission that the mayor has mentioned. I have found, though, as a manager, that in my time, that it's always best to get the input of those that do the work every day in terms of processes, in terms of how to get things done in a more efficient, a quicker way. So that's just a little bit of advice on that side. We need to challenge ourselves and the administration to continuously improve. After the Firestone CLC meeting last week, we heard more time is needed. I have talked to President Somerville and the Budget and Finance Chair about a mid-year capital and operating budget review. I believe this will help the community and the council better understand the budget, better prepare for the next time, for next year, and help us as a whole moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Fusco. Councilman Hardy?
Thank you, Madam President. I echo the kudos and the thanks that have already been expressed, but just want to say as a newbie, wow, this process worked really well. All of us on council worked really well together. Our leadership listened to us and went beyond, above and beyond. And I want to thank the administration. I've been on that side of this too, and the time and effort that officials put in to get to this amendment is extraordinary. But so I want to echo that, but I also just want to rise and say that I'm a yes, but I want to echo President Somerville's concern long-term about sustainability and just keeping an eye on the bottom line here. A 20+% increase in property taxes might be a good thing for the city's general fund, but it's a horrible thing for the households in our city. I know all of us have had several calls, I know I have, of folks on fixed incomes and not, who are struggling to figure out how they're going to pay those property taxes. Our friends down the street at the school board are talking tonight about what it would look like to put not one but two property tax increases on. We had a presentation tonight at Councilman Kamer's Public Service Committee about a Dominion 30% increase in gas rates. I really believe we might be hitting a place or a point in time in our community where it's not so much about whether the idea is worthy, but whether we can afford it. And I just hope that we, and I know we will, because this has been, as I said, just a tremendous process to witness. I know we will be mindful of that, but I just felt compelled to say that because I for the first time in our family's history, my family, we've had to sit down and really figure out how we're going to make everything pencil out. And we are probably doing way better than the majority of Akron. So if we're struggling to figure out how we're going to make ends meet, that means a lot of my constituents, our constituents, and the entire city is trying to figure this out. So I just hope as we have additional conversation, this is a great idea. So I plus one Councilman Fusco's mid-year review. I think that's smart because we can't control how the economy does or does not grow or contract in our community, but we can control how we budget and how we prepare for all of those inevitabilities. And I want to make sure, to the extent possible, that we're not adding additional burdens on our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hardy. Councilman McKittrick?
Thanks, Madam President. I too would like to extend my thanks to my colleagues. I got some phone calls. I get a thank you afterwards, expressing the concerns of what this budget was going to mean to the city. I think that the concerns that were given to us helped us come to a conclusion. I appreciate especially President Somerville and Vice President Fusco. They worked very hard on getting a remedy to this, along with the mayor's offices and his administration, especially Mr. Fricker. And one other thing I wanted to mention, because I did see in the press after our meeting at Firestone, was a little criticism about the expenditure for public safety in the police department. I don't think that anybody should have any surprise that police is priority, because the mayor, when his 4-point plan, number one was public safety. The police department is a big part of public safety. And we have 125 officers who are eligible to retire right now. We have a class that's dropped down to 46 right now. We're hoping all will be able to make it through. They'll have to get through that class, be with a training officer before they can be on their own. So it's going to take a while to be able to do this and get these folks out. Also, the fact that people were saying that crime is down, it may be down, there's calls for service might be down, but that's because we're being proactive. Our department is proactive and going out and doing the work. We're not going to wait till, gee, crime goes back up and there's issues and then be reactive. We have a proactive department, and I think that we should keep it that way. But thanks so much again for everybody's work on this.
Thank you, Councilman McKittrick. Councilwoman Amobian?
I'm going to be honest with you. I had not planned to say a word about this, but I just want to make sure that, you know, during the time that I have been down here, I have understood more about this budget in the last few months, especially the transparency of the budget. And that is what I have heard from most of the citizens, is that they want to make sure that they know where the dollars are going, and they understand that, and they want to give the mayor and his administration the tools to do their jobs. Let me just say that since I've been down here, we have talked about Elevate Akron, for one thing, and everybody talks about how well we're doing, but we can't produce any figures or tell us what we're actually doing. And in this budget, part of the transparency is to try to give us numbers and for us to have metrics and things to figure out how are we doing with public safety? How are we doing in terms of elevating Akron and making sure there are opportunities for all the citizens in Akron? You know, and we've been talking about housing and food insecurities and all those things. Part of the budget is to talk about that. And unless we change how we do business down here, we would never know for sure that we're making progress in those areas. So I think that for me, was a positive about what we are seeing on paper. And that is what I heard from citizens, particularly those that are looking at, when we look at public safety, we talk about this diverse class that we have. No one is talking about the fact that this class is diverse because of Captain Mike Miller and Sergeant Mike Murphy, two black officers who came up with creative ways of finding different kinds of people to serve the city, to make it more diverse, and to make it look more like the rest of us. So until you start acknowledging that there are changes because people are putting in efforts to do business a different way, we're never going to move the needle. And then when we talk about the fire station, we have Captain Lash, who has gone out as a one single woman, and I know she didn't do it all by herself, but she took the leadership to do it. Again, you have a diverse class. You have your only black female fire captain. And so these are the kinds of things that we're gonna have to pay attention to, folks. These things don't happen because we hope and wish and we pretend that they're happening. They happen because we're putting forth changes and doing things differently in order to make it happen, and that's what we have to continue to do. So I really want us to talk more about what this is going to hopefully generate for us in terms of seeing some changes and being able to put our arms around them and say that we are making a difference. We are providing services in a way that's supportive of all the citizens of Akron. When we talk about the seasonal workers, we've been asking this question for a long time. I know Mr. Neal used to be on the floor all the time talking about it. How can we look at the list of seasonal workers and determine how many of them have been seasonal workers and they can never get past being a seasonal worker? And most of them look like me. So until we do things differently, we're never going to move the needle. So that's why I was not troubled by all of this money. And I hope if we have moved some things, I hope we haven't moved the things that are critically important in giving us the data that we need to see that we're making progress. And that's what we have to do, folks, in order to change things. And all I can tell you is that the citizens I've talked to, that is what I heard from them, for the most part. That I voted for the mayor because he talked about making a difference, and that's what they were telling me. And I want him to have the tools he needs to do his job. And all of the changes you made or recommended, I have no problem with them, as long as they don't interfere with us getting some actual answers to see if we're making progress in this city. And you know, the other thing too, we don't talk about the Section 56, how taking that from under the covers is gonna show us where the dollars are going. And we don't have all these hidden contracts and stuff anymore. So there are a lot of things in this that I hope will show us that we are making a difference and making progress down here. And that's the important thing to me, because the citizens complain that they don't see enough evidence of an improvement or a change. And you know, even the housing repair 2.0, hopefully we'll see people's houses getting repaired with these ARPA dollars. So there are a lot of things that I have been thinking about, but I just wanted you to know that these are the feelings I have. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Connor?
I would just like to say a couple of things. You know, I've been down here for a few years now, and this has been the best budget experience since I've been here. You know, we all came in with a few little differences and a few things we wanted to see, but the ability for council leadership and the mayor's office to work those out prior to this meeting, so we weren't down here with a lot of in-house fighting and chest thumping and people stating their cases, and having that resolved before we got to the floor was an amazing process to watch. The transparency, the community engagement on this budget was better than it's ever been, and we are going to move the needle. A new housing inspector will help move that needle. More people for the dog. These are the neighborhood issues. More money for neighborhood partnership. These are the day-to-day things that we hear from our residents, and it was great to have the consensus and the common ground work to the benefit of those neighbors.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Garrett?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to personally thank the mayor and for taking the time to meet with me to go over a couple concerns that I had. One of the concerns I had is we watched the budget and we look at the $700,000+ settlement that the city had to take on. And so when I looked at the police budget and I saw the part in there about training, hopefully they'll get the diversity training that they need. In our conversations with the mayor, he assured me that part of that training will be covered there. And I want to thank you, Madam President, for the additional funding with the Neighborhood Development Partnership. The extra money will help the citizens. I'm really concerned about the football league. There was a shooting down at Lane Field. Just hopefully they'll get the funds, the support that they need to be safe in that area. So again, thank you to the mayor, and thank you to you, President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Garrett. Any other comments at this time? Okay, seeing and hearing none, do we have a motion on the floor?
Yeah, motion to favorable report with the suspension of the rules.
All right, thank you. And did we do a second on that?
Second.
Second, yeah.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
Okay. We'll now move to Planning and Economic Development. Councilman Fusco.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to request time on 1 through and including 7. And then I'd like to request that we file 8, 9, and 10. Those are petitions on items that we previously voted on. Time on 11, 12, 13. The report of the committee on item 14 is favorable, and we're asking for not suspension of the rules because it's been some time. It's a favorable report.
Okay. Any further comments on that?
No, just that this is Council Representative Kamer has been working with the petitioner, and I believe we've got some things ironed out, and so we'd like to move forward at this time.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Kamer, do you have any further comment? Okay, thank you. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
Councilman Fusco.
File 15, please, and then time on 16 through and including 19. And the report of the committee on item number 20 is favorable. We're asking for passage. This is a type A daycare home at 434 Clinton Avenue, and the Ward Council representative is in favor of this at this time, and we'd like to recommend approval.
Thank you. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
Councilman Fusco.
Report of the committee is to file 21 and then time on the balance. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Time will be granted. That concludes our old business. We'll now move into new legislation.
Item number 1 was the substitute that was already read in. Item number 2, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish adult daycare services on the Ohio Living Rocky Knoll campus at 1275 West Exchange Street and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Refer.
This item will be referred.
Item number 3, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee without the formality of publicly advertising for bids to enter into a contract or contracts with Nazareth Community Development Corporation for the rehabilitation of 20 owner-occupied single-family housing units and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Item number 4, offered by Kamer, Hardy, and DeShazier, resolution declaring it necessary to improve West Portage Trail between the termini of North Portage Path and Treetop Trail by constructing and reconstructing curbs and concrete sidewalks and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer.
Consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 5, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract after requesting and receiving requests for qualifications, RFQs, with an engineering consulting firm for the supplemental engineering services required for the 2024 Capital Investment and Community Development Program and the 2024 operating budget, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer.
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 6, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contractor contracts after publicly advertising for qualifications with a consultant or consultants for professional architectural and/or engineering services to study the feasibility of sites for the relocation of the Akron Police Department headquarters and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Consent agenda, please.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 7, offered by Kamer, ordinance ratifying the actions of the Director of Public Service in contracting with Wingfoot Rental and Kenmore Construction Company for the emergency repair of the water main on Weather Vane Lane, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Consent agenda, please.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 8, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids or requesting and receiving requests for qualifications, RFQs, for professional engineering services for the Lake Rockwell Reservoir Planning Study and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 9, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an agreement and grant an easement on city-owned property along Stillwell Road in Chagrin Falls to the Cleveland Electric Illuminating Company and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 10, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Arcadis US Incorporated for professional engineering services for the water plant water main upgrade project and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 11, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with AECOM Incorporated for professional engineering services for the East Branch Dam improvements and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 12, offered by Kamer, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service after publicly advertising for bids or requesting and receiving requests for qualifications, RFQs, to enter into a contract or contracts for professional engineering services related to the replacement of various water mains throughout the city of Akron as part of the 2025 Water Main Replacement Program and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer,
Consent agenda.
this item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 13, offered by McKittrick, resolution approving and confirming the appointment of Joseph Natko to the Emergency Medical Services Advisory Board for a term ending December 31st, 2024, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick,
Request is consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 14, offered by Councilman McKittrick, resolution declaring that Akron City Council shall begin reviewing the designated police towing districts and the assignments thereof as set forth in 70.52 of the Akron Codified Ordinances and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick,
The committee's request is time, please.
time will be granted.
Item number 15, offered by McKittrick, ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent without the formality of publicly advertising for bids to enter into a contract or contracts with Magnet Forensics for the one-year renewal of the Gray Key online software and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick,
The committee's report is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This is a piece that was reintroduced. It wasn't fully understood who the vendor was going to be, and it was passed previously, so we are asking for its passage tonight.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 16, offered by Amobian, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee without the formality of publicly advertising for bids to enter into a contract with Forever Our Children to provide a shower bus to help address a desperate need of the homeless population to have access to facilities to maintain personal hygiene and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Amobian,
Madam President and Council, this afternoon, the committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This afternoon, we heard from Reverend Lori Porter. I don't think she's here tonight, but this is just a perfect example of what happens in the city of Akron when everyone comes together to provide for our most needy citizens. This Forever Our Children shower bus that was conceived by this board and the founder of Forever Our Children. We are providing them with $75,000 to finish the funds they needed to repair the bus, to retrofit it. And I just think that it's just a perfect example of what happens when citizens come together and decide we want to address a need. And they are ecstatic. And I think everybody around the Horseshoe, when we heard about the project, we were happy about it as well. So we thank the administration and council and everyone that's involved for this. So, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments at this time? The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 17, offered by President Somerville. Resolution approving and confirming the appointment by Akron City Council of Erica Bernie Hawkins to the Akron Citizens Police Oversight Board as established by Charter Section 68A and declaring an emergency.
Okay. The committee's report was favorable, and the committee is asking for suspension of the rules. We brought forth the name Erica Bernie Hawkins. We also just want to take an opportunity, we talked a little bit about it during committee, just wanting to thank all of the applicants who applied to fill the vacancy on the Oversight Board. I do believe we had 8 people, I think we interviewed last week, and a lot of great applicants. So the decision was not easy, but the committee decided to look at an individual who lives in Ward 5. It was very important for the committee to make sure that the neighborhood that is most impacted had a seat around the table. And so we're proudly bringing forth Mrs. Hawkins' name, who has a master's in social work. She's lived in the Ward 5 neighborhood for over 30 years, has a lot of experience working with children and adults, not only just in social services, but also in the criminal justice system. I want to give an opportunity if there's any other comments from any of the other committee members. Councilwoman Davis.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of Erica Bernie Hawkins as well. Again, Madam President said that she's been a homeowner in Ward 5 for over 30 years. She's a clinical therapist. She's got a great background. And again, she has that master's in healthcare, and I think she'll serve well on the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other comments? Councilman Hanna?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to thank the committee for choosing someone from Ward 5 to sit on that board, because I think every ward should have a representative on that board. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman McKittrick?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I too feel that we did have some great candidates, but I just want to thank Councilwoman Amobian, Councilman Hanna, Councilwoman Davis, and you, Madam President, for...
And Tina.
And, oh, yes, I'm sorry. And, I'm sorry, for sitting and helping in the interviews. We did have some good people, and I felt honored to be able to sit in there as well, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. If there's nothing else at this time, the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This resolution passes 13-0.
Okay. That concludes our new legislation for this evening. We'll now move into our committee assignments, rules. Councilman McKittrick.
2 p.m.
Public Safety, Councilman McKittrick.
2:15.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Lombardo.
3 p.m.
Parks and Rec, Councilwoman Connor. Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco. Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilman Kamer.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
Is there anything else coming before council at this time? We have a motion on the floor. If there's no objections, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.